All right, guys, so the respect formula. We're going to talk about the definition of respect and why people mess it up. In language in general, there are a lot of these sort of semantical inconsistencies and these semantical hurdles where people have positions that they understand the essence of, but sometimes there's a limitation in their ability to use the words when conveying their position to somebody else that the other person understands. The more they talk, the more chance for a gradually accumulation of offset in what the other person's hearing. If every word of significance that I use when describing my position is a little bit different than the way he would use that word, the more words I use, the more of an offset, I'm designing. So why this is important is you have a relationship with what it is that's supposed to be a virtue in our society, something that we call respect. But if I were to ask people, and I've done this before, how do you define respect? Somebody give me an example. Marlo, how do you define respect?
It's a given privilege to somebody that you feel deserves it.
A privilege you give to somebody who deserves it. Luke, define respect.
Respect is just like, it comes down to me it's like a mutual understanding between two people. So it's
okay.
Like, you know the higher you value somebody and you know their values and their virtues and how they match up compared to yours.
Mm-hmm. So if I said there's a bear over there and one of my idiot friends goes, "Oh, let's go pet him." And I say, to them, like, you better respect what a bear is. You better respect what a bear could do to you. Don't think that you could just be a nice guy and it's going to be like touching a puppy. That has nothing to do with people. That has nothing to do with a mutual, whatever word salad you threw at me, lawyer, right? So again, but this is kind of the point, By the way, both of your definitions, yeah, absolutely. But they're also subsets of what respect actually is. So to me, I define respect as and I don't mean, probably should write it down a little differently since I used the word formula here, but this does not denote, division. I just didn't know if I did a slash if I would make it. But it could also be acknowledgement, right? So the acceptance or acknowledgement of reality. Now, what that means is, when we respect something, we're saying, okay, this thing that I'm respecting has certain components to its identity, and I'm acknowledging each one of those components. Therefore, I respect that thing. Now, in your heads right now, you're going, yeah, but like if somebody is, I find out he's a thief. I've known him 5 years. He's my neighbor. Seems like a good guy. But then I found out he's robbing other neighbors and, I don't respect him. Well, again, this is where I think a lot of conflation occurs. And it's a semantical conflation where we're using words to sort of, broaden their definitions as we use them. Well, we could say we don't respect him because the guy is not respectable when you find out that information. Now, why is he not respectable? Because, similar to a conversation we were having earlier, I thought he was this. Turns out he was also hiding a little bit of this. Well, I didn't see that aspect to him. Maybe he has one of these hidden. You know, he's burning neighborhood animals, dogs, for for barbecues during the summer. I don't know. Or, let's not even talk about what that could be. Talk about his lack of development in certain areas of who he is. So if we're looking at respecting somebody, or somebody as being respectable, what we say is they're being consistent. Meaning, it's easy for us to accept and acknowledge who the reality of that person is. I don't care if you like me, but you're going to respect me. Well, for a lot of people, they use like and respect synonymously, interchangeably. But we also could understand what it is I'm conveying if I say, I don't care if you like me, but you're going to respect me. What I'm saying is you're going to acknowledge who I am. You're going to acknowledge what I demand. You're going to acknowledge my identity more generally. So when we talk about, being now respectable, it's really an argument for one being consistent in who he is. It's looking at the deficiencies that we have and understanding, well, if these deficiencies in some way interact in my alliances, at some point my ally is not going to respect me. He's not going to deem me a respectable individual. So this is why we want to be honest. This is why we want to have a circle, a tribe, where we could be open about our deficiencies. Right? We could, we have at least another identity that we could just say, okay, this is what I'm about. When you start looking at, some of the precursors or the drivers for suicide, it's often discovered that these people who wound up offing themselves had this second life, had this whole other aspect of who they were that nobody that cared about them knew about. And then finally, they get to the point where, I don't know if it's some sort of, psychiatric fucking schism or something, or it just gets to the point where they don't want to face the music, but it seems like an unsolvable equation for them. And a lot of them decide to quit, as an example. So if we're talking about, okay, as an individual, I want to be respectable, we also have to add the layer, the filter of respectable to whom? Do I want to show the stranger on the street all my cards? Does that somehow make me more virtuous, more of a valuable individual? And my argument is no. Because I think one is being delusional, if not outright dysfunctional, if they think telling every stranger your problems, your vulnerabilities, your deficiencies, if you think doing that with strangers is going to help you in the long run, or if that's a valid, viable formula, you're a prey just hoping not to run into a predator. You hear about guys, casing out people's houses. They're hearing somebody, online at the deli saying, yeah, me and the family were going away for 2 weeks to Florida. And you have the guy, oh, really? And the guy goes to his car, all of a sudden, let me find out where this guy lives. Let me tell my buddies, this guy's going to be gone 2 weeks in Florida. I heard him tell the whole thing. So there's a certain vulnerability if we're trying to have a certain level of respect that transcends the level of the lines of the people we're around. Let me explain that in a little bit more detail. I don't need to be respected by the guy standing next to me on the sidewalk at the same level that I would want one of you to respect me, or one of my children to respect me. So being that the level of respect that I want from them is inherently lower, then the section, the segment, the piece of my identity that should be consistent to them is much lesser than the one that I'm exposing and revealing to people who now I am more invested in. My kids are going to know about me more than the stranger on the street. It's going to be harder to get them to consistently respect me because they could see the inconsistencies a lot more than a stranger in the street does. But I also am going to be able to have relationships with them because we understand who each other are at much higher levels. Much more powerful and significant alliances can occur. You know, have you guys ever had, rhetorical question, but like think about the times you've met people, you've gotten along with them. But you already know the limitation of this alliance you have with them. It's like, hey, you like your male guy? Oh yeah, male guy's great. Male guy's great. Hey, we're going camping for a week. Why don't you invite him? Yeah, I mean, he's a nice guy and everything. Like, we all have, we understand there's something off there. It's like, yeah, but you were just telling me he's great. You were actually giving me a report on him with an included or connected energy that might be more, you know, complimentary than you describing all the guys that are going on a camping trip. You know, who's going on a camping trip? Oh, Larry's going to be, oh, fucking Larry. Larry, nah, he's a good guy, but you know him. Fucking once he talks, a couple of beers. Is he bringing beer? No, don't tell him not to come. That's how you're talking about Larry. But if I just asked you about the mailman, you're, oh, great guy, yeah, good guy. But you don't want the mailman coming on the camping trip. So we understand. It's like, yeah, there are levels to these alliances. Respect is a quality that allows us to sort of maximize the potential for those alliances. In order to have an upgrade, let's say we have the mailman, right? The mailman, great guy. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we wind up, you know, helping the guy out. The guy, I don't know, a tree falls, hits the guy in his leg. Before I know it, I'm taking this guy in my truck to the hospital, and his wife's there, and I'm explaining to his wife what happened, and she's so grateful, and next thing you know, they insist that we go over there for dinner because I helped this guy with his leg, and now I'm inviting the mailman to go camping. Because we got to experience a level of interaction that we were able to reveal who we were at a more pronounced level. We were able to expose our identity. It became appropriate to allow them to see us for who we are at a greater level than the nature of our alliance prior to that, which is, hey, mail guy. Hey, Mr. Garcia. Yeah, leave it right there. Thanks. Have a great day. You too. You know, it's like it would be weird if you had a mailman for 5 years. Hey, Harry. Hey, Mr. Garcia. Hey, Mr. Garcia. Just had a huge lunch. Mind if I use your bathroom? He might get one of those out of me, like, sure, you know, because now I'm like, am I being the asshole if I say no? But like, how could he ask that? Like, I remember there was a big snowstorm up here a couple years ago, and literally like 4 feet of snow. It was just insanity. And I lived, there's a huge road that connects 2 highways. So, you know, it's like one of those state routes. And somebody slid out towards the bottom of the hill. And, you know, it's however many miles, 20 miles down, and maybe a mile or 2 down the hill from me, somebody slid out and just jammed up the 2-lane road. And next thing you know, there's cars just for miles. So there's a whole bunch of cars right in front of my house, and they haven't moved in at least 2 hours. I'm out there, and you know, I'm just being nosy, like just making sure I know what's going on. And at some point, there was these 2 college-age girls. Excuse me, sir, do you live there? And I'm like, yeah. Do you mind if we use your bathroom? And it's like, oh man. I'm like, yeah, just give me a second. I go in the house. I have a bathroom downstairs in the basement, bathroom on the first floor. So I go down, I open the back door, and I come to the front of the house, and I'm like, girls, walk around there, go in, the bathroom's to your left. I told my wife and kids to stay upstairs. So just go in, when you're done, just come right out that door. You're good. Went, told my wife, there's gonna be 2 college-age girls downstairs. This is why they're there. Like I did, because now I'm like, all right, first of all, I got a daughter, like they gotta go to the bathroom. They're not like us. They can't just, do a dog act on the side of the road. Like, so I had to make a decision, but then I had to do all the things necessary because I respected the vulnerability of the situation. Rambo, come. Being nosy. So we understand that when we're acting respectably, it's usually we're trying to demonstrate consistency because we want people to respect us. However, when you look at Angel's shirt, I remember when I designed that shirt 15 years ago, respect reality. It's like, what was the sentiment behind that? It was like, just because you don't want bad things to happen doesn't mean that they're not going to happen. And you need to build a functional relationship with that. And that's what respect is. So the respect formula, like, how could it sabotage us? How could it jam us up? Well, we don't accept that there are certain components to individuals that we know. We expect them to do something that maybe we would have done, or something that maybe would be better for them, but there's no indication that they have the ability to actually show the discipline to do it. It could be that, yeah, we trust somebody, we invest in a relationship where the guy hasn't demonstrated a level of consistency to warrant the expectations that you're placing on him. I've said before, one of my quotes, whenever somebody lets you down, it's because you have inaccurately set expectations. Whenever somebody lets you down, it's your fault. How could they do this to me? They didn't do anything to you. It's like if I told you, hey, slap yourself in the face. You wouldn't slap yourself and go, how could you do that to me? I didn't fucking do it to you. You're the idiot that slapped yourself. Well, why is it different? Conceptually, this guy did something. By the way, he was always going to do it. It's just that component of him that let him do that thing, you were not tracking. So you had a level of investment in this individual that was basically having some sort of faith that all of those concealed aspects of his character were going to work out. He wouldn't steal anything. Why not? He doesn't seem like the stealing type. What are they, wearing fucking shirts now? Like thief? It's not the way it works. I grew up in the Bronx during the 80s. You learn how to respect reality real quick. The crackhead walking down the street who's, hey, what's going on? It's like that. And you get somebody who's never been around them. Hey, how are you? He's such a nice guy. Like, cover your purse. Tell him you ain't got no money. Or, the bums on the street. And yes, I still call them bums. Excuse me, sir, do you have $1? Yeah. Can I have one? No. No. But what, shut up. Like, leave me the fuck alone. Stop talking to me. I have too many reps. I expect exactly the accurate amount from them. I understand what they're about. They understand what they're about. And they don't get offended either, right? They're like, all right, he must be from here. But then you hear about the guys who, they throw dirty water on windshields and they convince people, out-of-towners in New York to tip them and stuff like that. These guys are making hundreds of dollars a day. Like, there have been exposés on these people, the amount of money they make. It's fucking ridiculous. Go and ask one of them for money, see what happens. Not going to happen, right? Because they know the deal, right? So respect is really just allowing us to build a relationship with what we can see, what we can track, what is there. And it disincentivizes us from building relationships with things that our bias is just basically hoping for. You know, this guy's going to be a great. I remember when I first got my school's location, the one prior to the one I'm at now, and I met with the landlord, and on paper, like, I was a terrible investment. I knew that. I didn't have the greatest credit, and it wasn't bad, it just wasn't really established, you know. I didn't really like open a bank account until I was like 25. So I'm like, all right, I guess you can't just use cash your whole life like everybody that I grew up around. Like, all right. And I remember I knew I was going to meet this guy to try and get the space that I eventually got. I also knew that any research that he had done on me would show that I was a bad idea. I knew that. And I knew he was going to respect what he knew. So I had to show him more than what he was able to find on his own, because I knew if it was just that, I can't expect him to trust me. That's not fair. That's not me respecting his role. That's me not respecting his mission. So what did I do? I got, magazine clippings. I got, like printouts of videos of competitions, newspaper articles that I was in and stuff, and a bunch of class pictures, and pictures of the trophies the school won. Basically, I made a presentation. This is why I'm a good investment. I gave him something to respect, because I knew without that, I'm being delusional if I just well, what do you think I'm not going to pay the rent? That doesn't mean anything. It means about as much as the crackhead saying he's going to use the $5 for a sandwich. You can't expect him to give me that level of respect given the information he has. So when we're tracking this metric, really, it allows us to basically just increase the level of success that we have when building alliances, when interacting with individuals. Does that make sense? Any questions on this? Guys, take a second and think about it. I want to get as much feedback as possible on this before we move on.
You could almost say discernment and acknowledgement,
Absolutely. And again, to not get into a semantical thing, I would put discernment under the category of acknowledgement. Okay. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm on the right track here. It's almost kind of like, you can't accept reality if you don't know the reality. So like if you're with that guy who has a lot of deficiencies, but you don't know about it because you don't have a strong enough alliance, it's like, how could you respect that guy?
Well, let's throw a couple of parameters around that. We will never understand reality. Right. So we're always going to understand and therefore be able to respect just a subset of it. Right? So it really is now a matter of scale. So what I'm saying is the nice, mail guy who's been delivering your mail for 5 years, don't let your kid sleep over his house. What do you think I'm a pedophile? What? No. But in all fairness, I don't know you're not. And as long as that question's unanswered, my fucking kids ain't going anywhere near your house. Because you're the mail guy. Great mail guy. So we have an alliance that's built at the level of mail guy respect. All right? So it's really, the more we learn about somebody, the greater respect we could have for them. And the potential exists, not that just by knowing about them you could respect them more inherently. It's that they have more of a canvas on which to draw an impressive picture of who they are. And our alliance should scale at that same rate. All right?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions?
Can you respect someone who you really don't have respect for? For instance, I respect my brother, but the level of respect is questionable because I know he's a fucking nut.
So,
It's like, does that intervene?
so you respect your brother. What does that mean to you? Expound on that for a second, just so again we get the terms right.
I respect my brother because he's my blood related, like blood. So I think there's a loyalty that has to be just by the fact that we're the same blood.
So that means you're loyal to your brother.
Yes, in essence, in essence.
So what I'm saying is, first, respect might not be the term to use there, which is the point. If I say, what does respect your brother mean? And you say, well, loyal, well, that isn't necessarily interchangeable with respect. So it would be, but this is something that like colloquially, like commonly we'll say, of course I respect my brother. Like I understand what you're saying by that. But again, if we're trying to avoid accumulating these offset definitions to the point where we don't even understand what we're saying to each other, it's always good to have that core understanding of what a word means, right? I'm going to give you another example of this, okay? And I have never looked up the etymology or the history of the word almost, right? So I'm going to take, I think, a pretty educated guess. What are the two words that became one in this example? But now let's think about that logically. It's the whole, what was that, Black Panther? Like, what was it called? Panther. 60% of the time works all the time, right? Sex Panther. Anchorman, right. 60% of the time it works all the time. Now, we know that to be funny. But I'll be damned if this doesn't say the same fucking thing. It's all of most of it. Like, think about it. If I tell one of my sons, and this is like a daily exchange that happens in my house. Hayden, did you finish your chores? I just have to, is that a no? Lead with no. Then get into your bullshit. Lead with no. No. I just have to. Hayden, did you finish your chores? Almost. That's a no. Like it literally means no. If the question is, did you finish yours? But I'll think about the sort of criteria we have on accepting almost as an answer. Hey, do you have enough money to go on vacation with us? Almost. All right, good, let me know. It implies some sort of direction. But let's just say I need $1,000 to go on vacation, right? All of us are going on vacation, $1,000 a guy. And I'm broke, but I have this one watch. I'm gonna sell this watch, and it's worth $1,500. $1,000 you guys need. I go to sell a watch. Most I can get is $900. That was my last chance of getting the money for the vacation. But if you would ask me, hey, you got the money for vacation? And I said, almost. I would be misleading if I just said almost. It's still accurate, but think about the level of satisfaction you would have for me saying almost. You would almost imply or infer, oh yeah, he just needs a little more time. Like, it's almost as if, somebody every day is dropping off $100 in my house. Well, I'm up to day 9. By tomorrow, I'll have it. The guy just has to come tomorrow and drop another 100. I have all of most of it. But it's really just a statement of 60% of the time, it works all the time. If I were to use the etymology instead of this word, hey, do you have the money to go on vacation with us? Well, I have all of most of it. So that means you don't have the money, right? But somehow if I say almost, you add a little bit on it. Like, oh, all right, he'll have it soon. as if there is some momentum implied. And I try to, you know, incentivize my kid or disincentivize my kids from using words like almost. Did you finish your chores? Almost. Well, that means no, right? Isn't no easier to say? Doesn't it have less bullshit attached to it? Just say no. Because whether you say almost or no, I'm still going to have the same reaction. What the fuck have you been doing all morning? Almost doesn't do anything, but this is how people use language. They use language not to accurately, not all people, but this is where the vulnerability lies. They use language not to accurately represent and convey and communicate what they're trying to give you. They're using the words like a snake charmer uses movements. I'm going to use these words to elicit a response. I'm a copywriter. I'm a marketer. Right. Obfuscate, you know, mislead, confuse. Like it.
Keep it vague.
It's but what I could do is I could use it for anything other than accurately representing what I want to say.
You think it's because it's a weakness to avoid emotional distress for them that it's
It could be. It absolutely could be. It could be they're just full of shit. It could be like, if I were to define a compulsive liar, I would say somebody who lies for no fucking reason, when telling the truth would have been just as easy. You know, if I had a ham sandwich for lunch and somebody asked me, what'd you have? I had a bologna sandwich. I had ham and cheese. No, I didn't. I just had ham. Why? I don't know. Guys all in my business. I don't know. Like, it's like the ninja throwing the caltrops, like, in case anybody tries to follow me. It's like it's just inherent in what they do. But you wind up having inaccurate language, and therefore you sabotage the potential of an alliance because the respect is minimized when people aren't being, honest, open, right? I had a buddy of mine, I think I mentioned this last night, a buddy of mine who's a student. How can I word this without jamming anybody up, being that it's recorded? It's a very common dilemma for me, by the way, when I'm recording things, guys. He had a student that wasn't supposed to participate in training. And he was contacted by an agency, a government agency, because he tested positive for something and he wasn't supposed to be in the business. And it was just a positive test that the government agency contacted him about. And they were like, yeah, tell us everywhere you've been. And he mentioned my buddy's school. And my buddy's like, why'd you mention his school? This just happened the other day. It's fresh in my mind. And my buddy said that his student said, well, I just wanted to be, honest and transparent. Really? No relationship with scale. No relationship with tribal wall. I told my buddy, you should go up to him, ask him, your wife in bed. Good time? See what he says. I bet you he's going to get offended. And then you go, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're married. You have kids. I'm assuming, you guys. Just be open and transparent. What's the problem here? We both understand. It's like my Paulie from Sopranos impression, by the way. I've been watching a lot of Sopranos lately. You got a wife. You guys lay down with each other, right? You have a good time from time to time. I'm just asking, is she any good at it? It's that last part. It's like, ugh, something's wrong there. What am I doing? I'm asking a question that transcends the scale of our alliance. Sometimes you need to make these extreme examples to show somebody how fucking retarded their positions are, at least inconsistent. Because here's the thing, when you point out inconsistencies, whether they like it or not, you're helping them. I'm trying to make you a more respectable person. By insulting me? No, that's your shit. by pointing out how you're being inconsistent. Believe me, I don't know if it's a condition, a strength, maybe a combination of the two, but I cannot help myself when it comes to just pointing out people's bullshit. It's difficult for me to be in the same, social circle with somebody and just ignore like this huge glaring inconsistencies in who they are. It's like if somebody had a piece of shit on their forehead. It's like, hey, Harry's coming over later. He's got a piece of shit on his forehead. He hates when people bring it up. So let's just, say, well, wait a minute. I got to sit next to this fucking guy with shit on his forehead? Is it like the word shit? It's like, no, it's actually, he has his medical condition. He wipes his own shit on his forehead every morning. But he's taking medication. They're trying to find the right dosage. Like, well, fuck no. And it's like, no fucking way. I'm in front of this guy. It's going to be 20 seconds where I'm like, so just shit on your forehead? Like, that's what we're doing now? Like, is everybody just going to be okay with it? And then, yeah, but if you do that, he's not going to want to be around. Oh, I'm sorry. If I repel the loyalties of the guys with shit on their foreheads, like, I'm okay with that. Again, extreme example to illustrate the point, but this is what respect is built on. It's built on acknowledging what's there. Now, let's talk about, like, this is where I get controversial. Not that anybody that this would offend would even be listening to my video anyway, maybe like a government agency, but they're laughing at this point, so they're just at work. I ain't mad at them. You have the cross-dressers. You used to be able to say that, cars having trouble, the tranny's going bad. Bad tranny. Now you got to say the whole word every time because you want to have accurate language. I got to pronounce transmission every single time I talk about it. They took that, they took the rainbow, but it's just to make the FBI guys laugh as they're watching this. There's a certain point where if you have a man who is dressed as a woman and says, you have to address me as a woman. I am a woman. Respect that I'm a woman. That's the demand they're making. That's not the reality I see, though. That's not the reality I see. Now, I'll be completely honest. There was a diner in the Bronx, Pelham Bay Diner. And there was a cross-dresser there. Guy, dressed as a woman, waiting on me for years. I don't give a fuck. God never got my order wrong. Was nice to the family, nice to the kids. It was great for me because I got to explain in like a safe environment what the whole transgender thing is. I was a great tipper, like never an issue. I don't give a fuck. If he changed his name to Janet, I'll call him Janet. That's the level of our alliance. Like, I don't fucking care. I don't. Janet moves in next to me. Now here we fucking go. Maybe I'm not the friendly guy from the diner anymore when he comes, oh yeah, move next door. It's like, all right, so now that we're here, let's address the cross-dressing elephant in the room, because I understand reality to be something, and unless you could convey some sort of understanding to where you and I agree on what reality is, you're not a woman. I can't respect that you're a woman because you're not a woman. With every filter that I have to determine whether or not you're a woman, you're a man. So what you're asking me to do is actually install some sort of cognitive dissonance where now I have to argue with myself in my head. Go look up, symptoms or consequences of cognitive dissonance at higher scales in an individual. Depression, like mental illness, just dysfunctional behavior. I'm spending my whole life to square this shit away in my head. Who I act as, who I think I am, who other people see me as. Like that's like a trifecta I'm trying to have completely overlapped. I'm not going to just throw a fucking wrench in the works and just, oh yeah, well, you know, they're actually women. Do whatever you want. I don't care. Like, I don't care. There used to be a comedy bit, you know, like that was like a thing that comedians do. Dress in drag, and it was fucking hilarious. Mrs. Doubtfire, you know, Robin the Quitter Williams. Hilarious. But no, but you're not a woman. That's some other shit. It's like we're all fine right up until you tell us now we got to act like our reality doesn't matter. In order for you to feel good, I have to feel the way you need me to feel. That's not the way it works. That is dysfunctional. Right. It's like, think about when people get to the point where they're taken off of life support. Like, what's the argument for taking them off of life support? He can't sustain his own, you know, his own functions, his own bodily functions. So we're going to, it's not that they're running out of fucking electricity. You know, it's not like you got to throw like 4 puppies in a fucking furnace a day to keep these machines going. Like, it's literally, they're just like, this person can't exist without the function of this machine. Well, what do we say about people who can't exist without the acceptance of other people's identity participating in their relationship with themselves? You know, I once had a buddy of mine, a teenager, who had this girlfriend that was, you know, just irrationally infatuated with him. Not that he was a fucking prize himself. Like, he would leverage it whenever it suited him. But I would always tell him, like, why are you still with this girl? Like, mind you, we're like 14, 15 years old. She said, if I break up with her, she's going to kill herself. And I didn't get it. So why aren't you breaking up with her? Like I thought, it's not on you. Like, to me, it was like, no, that has nothing to do with you. I had clarity of that when I was a teenager, 14, 15 years old. It's like, no, but she's holding you hostage. You can't do that. It's like robbing somebody like this. Give me all your money. Somebody does that to me, I'm like, listen, with all due respect, you got to show me the gun. Like, that could be a finger under your shirt. Like, I understand, but let's, you know, give me a little, like, you know, I know you don't want to murder me. You would have just shot me. So obviously you want to negotiate something where I just give you my shit. At least do me the, you know, the solid of showing me the pistol, right?
Do you think that behavior, that demand, is because their confidence in their own identity is so weak, they demand that the rest of the world has to conform to something they actually know is not the nature of the actual reality?
I don't know if confidence encompasses all of them. I'm sure it does a component of them. I would say maybe a scale of generality higher. It would be they are incomplete in their identity, and they need an external source to complete their ability to find themselves as being functional. You know, you'll see this with couples. Shh, stop digging. Rambo misbehaving. Couples been married 50, 60, 70 years. They don't know who they are anymore. It's, I'm with this person. I am us. Us is me. Yeah, like, when's the last time, you know, given that long, you know, time span, that they had to develop, you know, their offset, their individual component of who they are? Like, that's not how that works. Especially anybody that's been married 50, 60 years now, which meant they got married generations ago when society was a lot different. You know, husbands and wives actually gave a shit about each other. You know, or at least gave a shit about the marriage if they didn't give a shit about each other. You know, let me not be too presumptuous.
Or they die one right after the other.
That's right. Yep. That's right. Why? It's the same reason, going with that, why people die after they retire. I don't know, man. The last couple of months him working, he was fit as a fiddle. I can't believe, yeah, well, he ran out of fucking things to do. Yeah, no purpose. You know, no purpose. So it's one of the things that, you know, I've had the opportunity to talk with some military guys. And they spend a long career in the military, and I tell them, like, listen, this isn't you. This is what you do to be you. There's a distinction to be made there. You're still you once this place is gone. You've just for a long time participated in being you through this way. But you're still there. It's a paradigm shift for a lot of them. Oh, all I know is the military. Shut the fuck up. All you know is the military. Like, yeah, if you were like Genghis Khan's son, maybe. You know, like, you joined the military when you were 20. You're now 40. Like, half your life, you were not in the military. You were being you for a long fucking time. You could have retired from a job of being you and entered the military after putting in a good 20. You know, like, it's just a paradigm shift. It's understanding how these formulas should be looked at so we don't get confused and start conflating our biases, our emotions, or inconsistent feedback from external sources that confuses us even further.
That actually kind of leads me to my question. Why did you want to create the respect formula? Like, why is this something that you wanted to do?
Because there is a general a sentiment in society now that in order to place value on somebody's character, they need to be compatible with them, or they need to like them. I can't respect him. Why? Because he's an asshole. It's not a reason for not respecting somebody. Is he sometimes an asshole? Does he like surprise you like, hey, today I'm an asshole? But just somebody being an asshole, I respect plenty of people that are assholes. If you have ever heard me say that I don't need to like somebody to respect them. I don't need them to like me in order to like them. Oh, this fucking guy's awesome. Oh yeah, like we're gonna hang out. No, he hates me. But he's awesome. We're just not compatible that way. But he's a functional dude. He's, you know, does that make sense?
It's with your Sopranos example. You know, they don't like the gangsters, but they respect the gangsters.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And the inverse part of that is we're all being told that we need to respect one whole segment. That's just because somebody's got a vagina, they're worthy of respect. And
right. It's the state of identity as accomplishment, you know, which is something that, you know, it's a whole nother topic, but just briefly to comment on it, it's like, yes, we should always be prideful of our actions. We should be prideful based on our actions. We should always respect things based on their identities. But respect is not deference. It's not admiration. It's not necessarily compatibility. It's just the acknowledgement of what a thing is. You know, I knew this guy for 20 years. You know, he's a great guy. And then I found out he's a pedophile. You can't respect that guy. It's like, why? Because he's a pedophile. We can't respect him because you didn't know he was a pedophile. Now you know he's a pedophile. That's why you can't respect him. Oh, what? You respect pedophiles? Well, I don't know. Who here likes Genghis Khan? Oh, Genghis Khan, yeah, greatest warrior, just like that. Something like 0.5% of that region of the world still has his blood. I spoke about before, I went to that Genghis Khan exhibit down in Philly a few years back. And they had this whole section where it said Genghis Khan, you know, it had the factoid about the 0.5% of the region, whatever. And they were like, yeah, he was known to have many wives. It's like, yeah. And I'm sure for each one, there was a ceremony and they were all over 18. You know, it's like we just have to respect the era he was in, respect other facts. Again, this isn't admiration. This isn't, you know, Slightly related, and I'll stop with this. There was a debate as to the ethics of accepting scientific data from like Nazi scientists, whatever that means. And I'll use that to illustrate the point. It could be any science or knowledge that was acquired through deplorable, unacceptable, illegal, unethical means. It's like, why wouldn't we use the information? Because they got this information through this process. Well, what's the consequence of them doing that process? They all have to get put to death. Well, so that's easy. Kill them, use the information. What's the problem here?
You have an obligation to do both.
Right. It's like there's enough blame to go around. Like, I don't understand it's not a one or the other. You kill them, you get the information. Yeah, but what if the next guy, does, well, he knows he's going to get killed if we find out. If he's willing to get killed and, discover some fancy, useful shit, we're going to use that shit too. I don't understand what the problem is. Make sense? Any last questions?
Ask that question as someone who works for NASA.
Right. Well, let me not badmouth every government agent that's watching this tape right now. All right, good talk. Let's take a break.